Thank you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know as we're talking college football on this channel year-round. Appreciate your support. Click that subscribe button. Top 25 matchup in the SEC. And I'll be transparent. I'm as interested in this game as Oklahoma, Texas, as whoever. Maybe not Oregon, Ohio State, because that one is going to be a barn burner. But this is a good one. Ole Miss traveling to LSU. How about this? Ole Miss, the 3.5-point road favorite. The over-under set at 63.5. Worth noting coming into this one, Ole Miss has not won at LSU since 2008. Okay, it's been a minute, but Lane Kiffin has a really good team. Let's go ahead and dive in. From the Ole Miss perspective, listen, couple thoughts here. Very nice win against South Carolina last week. Listen, I was critical of Ole Miss after that Kentucky game. How good are they? This and that. Well, they came in, they took control of that South Carolina game and completely dominated, especially on the defensive end for the Rebels, okay? So for Ole Miss, you come off that Kentucky loss where people are kind of questioning your toughness, they pushed you around, whatever. How about this from Ole Miss? Finish the game giving up 3 points. You keep South Carolina in the end zone. You force 2 turnovers, 162 yards passing. Now, listen, South Carolina did rush for 151 yards, but it came on 43 carries. So it's just a scenario where Ole Miss, to me, is probably, because the Kentucky loss was so shocking, we all kind of sold all of our Ole Miss stock. You want to sell your Ole Miss stock to me, I'll go ahead and take it because I like them a lot. And it's not even necessarily for the reason that you think, okay? First off, we know Jackson Dart is really good. Jackson Dart actually has not been playing well the last 2 games. He's only completing 59% of his passes in SEC play. That's a little bit concerning, this and that. But that Ole Miss defense is for real. And what was the conversation everywhere in college football over the last about 12 months? Well, Ole Miss, we know they can score. We know Lane Kiffin can call plays. The offense is amazing, blah, 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 this and that. But what was the big concern? Do they have enough dudes on defense? They went heavy in the portal on defense, especially the defensive line, Walter Nolan, the kid from Florida. That defense has been phenomenal. Now, statistically, their numbers are a little skewed because they have played 6 games. They have not played a bye yet, but they lead the SEC in sacks. They lead the SEC in TFLs. So whatever money was spent on the defensive line in the portal, it has been worth every penny because that defense is playing at a really high level, and it frankly carried them last week when the offense was, I don't even want to say struggling. I think Ole Miss just kind of went conservative because they knew they could rely on the defense. Really like Ole Miss. LSU, I'll tell you this, man. I think LSU, this is a sort of important game for them. And I think it's a game where we're going to learn a lot about LSU. Like, LSU is just in such a weird spot. I remember talking about this with Trey Wallace from Outkick before the season, where I told him, I said, what's the vibe at LSU? Because you think about LSU football, and it's this weird thing where, you think about LSU, it's like, well, there's some positives. Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. Offense was awesome. This was coming into the year, of course. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, but then the defense was bad. Recruiting is good, but there's not much excitement about this year. And you look at LSU and just look at this season. Now, to the credit of Brian Kelly, this team does get better over the course of the year under his watch, but this is the 3rd straight year they lost a marquee game to open the season. You lose to USC. But then the counter to that is, even after that, you're 4-1. Congrats. I don't know that LSU's look very good, right? Struggled against South Carolina. Now, I understand South Carolina going there on the road is not easy. Well, 1, Ole Miss made it look easy. 2, you could have lost that game if Lidor Sellers doesn't get hurt. If they don't lose their starting quarterback, you might have lost that game if you were LSU. So to me, I don't know how good they are. By the way, UCLA, a few weeks later, UCLA is getting destroyed they got destroyed by Oregon. They got destroyed by Penn State. They got destroyed by Indiana. They were in the game at LSU before LSU pulled away late. So I look at LSU. This is a marquee game for me in terms of who they are going to be this season. And again, we said it with Ryan Day a minute ago. I don't think Brian Kelly would be on the hot seat, but you lose this game at home. All of a sudden, Alabama looks a lot different for LSU. All of a sudden, you got to go to A&M, a place that you lost 2 years ago. Arkansas is not an easy place to play, as the Tennessee Volunteers found out. And then, of course, oh, by the way, Oklahoma to close the year is a very good team as well. So LSU, this is, I don't want to say must win, but it's kind of like if you don't win this, you start to kind of question what this season will become. And so with it, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to give you my best bet. Then I'll give you my actual pick for this game. But let's start with the best bet. The best bet to me, and this is my best bet of the week, it is the under of 63.5. Now, that is down a little bit from 64.5, but I put this out on Twitter on Monday. I said last week I felt like the Arkansas-Tennessee over-under total was off by like 15 points. I said it was 60.5. I felt like it should be about 45. I thought it was like a 24-21 game. It ended up being even lower. It was 19-14 was the final score. So the way I felt about Tennessee, Arkansas, that's the way I feel about this game. I think this line is off by about 15 points. It is my favorite bet of the week. I feel very confident. Let me explain why. From the Ole Miss perspective, like I said, Jackson Dart has not been playing well on the road, or has not been playing well since SEC play started. Right now, he's completing 59% of his passes in SEC play, compared to 76% in the non-conference portion of the schedule. Now, the non-con was pretty easy, but it doesn't change the fact that Jackson Dart is struggling. So if he's struggling, what do? Take the ball out of his hands. Rely on that defense, especially in a loud environment, a crazy environment, in an environment that is so tough to play in. And as we said off the top, that Ole Miss has never won in under Lane Kiffin, or really under like their last 3 coaches. I think the last coach to win at LSU as the Ole Miss head coach was Houston Nutt, if I'm not mistaken, in 2008. So it shows you how long it's been. And I don't think, Lane Kiffin, listen, I think there's this perception of Lane Kiffin. He doesn't have an ego. If he's got to win 20-7, he'll do it. That's what he did against South Carolina last week. Took the foot off the gas, wasn't worried about putting up the most points, just getting the win. So you look at Ole Miss. It's also worth noting, by the way, after this game, they get a bye. You don't got to win pretty. You just want to win. From the counter perspective with LSU, I'm just going to say it. I'll get crushed in the comments, when we post this clip by LSU fans. I don't think LSU is very good. I'll just be transparent. I don't see a lot of special when I watch LSU, okay? And the one thing about LSU, they had highs and they certainly had lows under Les Miles and Ed Orgeron. But nobody ever questioned when you turn on the tape, oh, that whole team is NFL dudes, right? You watch NFL football. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyrann Mathieu still balling, Malik Neighbors, Jaden Daniels. You go on and on down the list, just special guys all over the field. I don't see that with LSU. As a matter of fact, it goes back to what we said in the preseason. I said Jaden Daniels, everyone was complaining last year when Jaden Daniels wins the Heisman Trophy on a 9-3 team. I said that team would be 6-6 without Jaden Daniels. Well, look at LSU now with Garrett Nussmeier. They're struggling to run the football, 96 nationally in running the football. You look at their ability on defense, it's improving, but 66 in the country. Yes, it's a significant improvement from last year, and Blake Baker deserves a ton of credit. Some of it also might be the schedule that they've played. I mean, South Carolina and UCLA aren't exactly a who's who of elite offenses. And so when I watch LSU, I've said it before, and I'll get criticized. I don't see special. I see one really good receiver in Kyron Lacey. I see a spectacular, maybe the best tight end in college football in Mason Taylor. I keep getting told how great the O-line is. They can't block anybody from when I watch them. I think they got like one dude on defense. The Braden Swinson kid's really good. No special DBs. Unfortunately, we know that Harold Perkins is hurt. And I think they're going to struggle significantly to move the football against Ole Miss. So my best bet is the under here of 63.5, and I feel great about it. Now, I know what people are going to say because my buddy Ryan Coyle, who hosts radio in Philadelphia, tweeted me this. But he said, dude, last year it was like 56-49. Yeah, Jaden Daniels ain't walking through that door, okay? And Lane Kiffin is not going to even attempt to make this a shootout on the road. listen, I don't feel comfortable. I'll be honest. I don't love betting on Ole Miss in a place that they haven't won in close to 20 years. But to me, uh, I feel good about the under. By the way, producer Matt with some great work. He does confirm 08. Jevin Sneed, unfortunately, I believe do I say it? I think he's the late Jevin Sneed, 274 yards passing, 2 touchdowns for Ole Miss in that game. And so you listen, we all know it is a very, very, very tough place to play. It is a very tough place to play. I don't love betting either side. I would pick Ole Miss to win. If you held a gun to my head, please don't. But if you held a gun to my head, I would take Ole Miss to win that game. But I really just like the under. Would it shock me if it's a weird 1917 LSU voodoo? They figure out a way to win? Sure. But I don't think LSU's good. I really don't. By the way, they're playing Arkansas next week. I wouldn't be stunned if we get a healthy Taylor Green. I wouldn't be stunned if Arkansas is a favorite. We can discuss that one down the road. Give me the under of 63.5. It's my favorite bet.